Well, good morning. As promised, I'm canning. We have a big thunderstorm outside with lightning, so we might lose power, but well, hopefully not. So, this is what's on the schedule for today. I usually don't can meat, but my kids called me and they asked if I could show them how to can taco meat. And there really isn't, I went through like every single canning book I have, and there really isn't one quote taco meat. And I thought, well, we could use chili. Years ago, I used to can ground beef. I don't like the texture of ground beef. I don't eat beef. So, but everybody else in my family occasionally does. So when I was going through all my books, and this is like my new favorite book, this is the Ball All New Canning book. I recommend this book. Um, it's all tested. Don't take recipes off of Pinterest or YouTube. There's scary stuff out there. These are all tested. It's on page 297. It's called Roast Pork in Spicy Broth. And I thought, this is really a good recipe because you could add beans to it. You could turn it into a chili. You could serve it over a grain. Um, or you could make tacos out of it. So this video is basically for my kids up in Alaska. So you start out, and I'm doubling the recipe. So I ran down to my butcher the other day in Middlefield, and I asked, you're supposed to use boneless pork blade. I think they call it boneless pork butt, Boston butt. Anyway, it's pork. They don't have it without the bone in. Oh, there's a good flash. So this has a blade bone. So I sharpened all my knives this morning, and I will be cutting this off the bone. Then I'm going to save these bones and make stock out of them. And I'm going to freeze the stock. I'm not going to can. Pork stock is meh. I'd rather freeze that. So if I need it for something else, I can use that. So this is about the size. They're little cubes, and you're going to put it on a cookie sheet and bake it in the oven at 425. And this is going to take me quite a while because I trim all the fat off my meat when I'm canning. You don't need fat caps in your. I don't like it. This calls for 4 quarts of chicken stock, and this is the fat cap from the chicken stock. Now the good thing is my basement is so cold that I can scrape that cap off and pitch it. We just don't like it. We don't eat it. The other thing I worry about is if during the pressure canning process it bubbles up, it has a tendency to boil over, and it'll stop the seal between the lid and your jar. So that's another reason to cut the fat off. And these all have really nice. This probably would have been a delicious roast. I'll never know. but we're going to go ahead. I'm going to speed through this, get this all done, get it baked off, and then we'll start canning. Okay, I can honestly say I will never debone a pork shoulder again. So for those 2 pork shoulders, it took me almost 2 hours to really get all the fat, all the silver skin, all the tendons out. It was way more work than I thought it was going to be. I'm kind of somebody who doesn't eat a lot of meat. So it was shocking. So the next part of this has been browned. I browned it at 425 for 30 minutes, and it gets nice and brown. It looks good, hardly any fat cooked out, so we're thrilled with that. Now the next step, get yourself a stainless steel pot, and you're going to dump in 3 quarts of chicken broth. And the one that's darker is turkey broth because I really like the flavor of turkey broth. And you're also going to put in, this is 12 ounces of sliced onions. So they're all going to go in the pot. And then I'm going to add my spices. One of the reasons I can is because then I can determine how much salt, how much heat. This has I put 1 tablespoon. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of pepper flakes. I'm only using 1. I'm using half the amount of salt. Salt is in canning. It's not a preservative. It's for flavor. And this is oregano, and I left the oregano at 2.5 tablespoons. And then I'm going to put this on the stove. You're going to bring it right to a boil, and then you're going to let it simmer for 5 minutes. Then I'm going to take my jars and pack my meat halfway up and fill the rest with the hot liquid. So, and because there's only two of us and really only one of us is going to eat taco meat, I'm only going that far. So bring this to a boil and then I'll add the hot liquid. So let me bring this to a boil and then I'll be right back. Okay, I have my broth done. I have my jars filled. I have 2 inches of water in my canner and a quick tip. So this is a wooden spoon and I wood burned where 2 inches are in the spoon. So I can just stick it in the pot and figure out if I need more water or not. Here we go. Okay, then when you're pressure canning, we have hard water. So I like to put a splash of white vinegar in my water. And it keeps your jars from getting cloudy. Plus we're canning meat, so there's fat in it. So I'm gonna go ahead, you want 1 inch of headspace. So that is going to be from here to here is 1 inch. So I'm gonna fill a couple jars and I will show everybody. So once I have 1 inch headspace, this is a little jar with white vinegar in it. And I'm going to you can wet a cloth. I have a paper towel. It doesn't matter. And wipe your rims. In fact, before I do that, in case I splash, I'm going to debubble. So this is just a wooden chopstick and you want to push down, make sure you get all the air out of these jars. And then I have my lids staying warm on the back of the stove. So I switched lid companies last year. I wasn't happy with Ball lids and I switched to a brand called Superb. And this is what they look like. They're made in Ohio. They're an American-made company. Ball lids had gotten thinner and thinner, and I was having some trouble with some jar sealing. So I switched to these. They have a silicone. I can show you what the ring looks like. So it's a much heftier lid. It's really thick. It's coated so you don't get any problems. But this blue is supposed to be silicone. And I thought these are going to be my new canning jars. I ordered a ton of them. I'm down to my last box. I'm not ordering anymore. I had more jar failures with the Superb lids than I had with the Ball lids. So I'm going back to Ball. That is just my experience. Other people might have a different experience, but that's sort of been how it's gone here. And if you're canning something, you're working way too hard to be throwing jars of food out. So I decided, based on failure rate, it's really frustrating. You go in the basement, you get a jar, you're ready to eat dinner, and the lids pop right off. No seal. So nobody likes that. So this is really, and you screw these on finger tight, no more. You don't want to ratchet them down because you have to let those jars, when the steam canner exhausts, it creates that vacuum, and that's when your jars seal. So that is just finger tight. I have ratcheted them down when I was first learning, and your jars explode. So, or they don't seal. So that's good. So there's the first three. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these filled up. I might need a little more chicken broth, but I don't think so. I think I'll be fine. And when I get ready to lock down the canner, we'll come back on. Okay, so I have an all-American canner, and it's a double decker, so I can get 2 rows of pints on here. I have 11 pints. I ran out of broth at the end for the last 2 jars, so I just use boiling water, and that's it. And that will just be meat to throw on a salad, or if I need it, somebody needs meat it for dinner. I don't know, but it's nice to have those jars in the basement. So that's what this is. So one of the tricks I have learned with this all-American canner, but one of my kids has an all-American, and I did not pay full price for these. Watch Facebook Marketplace. I bought this from a woman who scared herself to death. She had never pressure canned before. She was in her 50s or 60s. She owned a bed and breakfast. She thought she had all these plans to make jams and jellies, and all she needed was a water bath. She didn't even need a pressure canner, and she just wanted it gone. So I got it for $100. And as I was loading it in my car, she said, "Wait, can you please take all these jars and lids and everything? I'll never do this again." Basically, she had scared herself out of canning. Um, these are the Cadillac of canners, in my humble opinion. My one daughter has a Presto, which was my old Presto that I started in the 70s using. And we just got a new gauge for it. We completely got new seals, had everything checked, and it works as good as the day that I bought it. I bought the smaller one of these. It just holds one layer, and I got that for under $100 from somebody else who said they're never canning food again. They weren't interested in it, and I think it cost me $75. All I had to do was go pick it up. So I gave that to her, and then every once in a while they come up. I haven't seen them for $100 lately. If you do, grab them. I don't know what these are costing new, but this one still has the stickers on it, which I just took the stickers off like over the fall. So one of the tricks with these canners is just take a little bit of oil and run it around the inside rim. And what that does is it sets your seal. And it took me a long time. I ended up calling the company and going, "What do I need to do to get this stupid thing to seal?" And this was the company's recommendation. You don't need a lot. You just need a little tiny coating. And there's no rubber gasket. It's just, and you have a little gouge here and an arrow right here. And then you just line it up. And then I have to say, probably the trickiest part is you have to get it even. If it's off center or this side's higher, this side's lower, then it's probably not going to seal. So you have to wiggle it a little bit, and then you pick 2 on opposing sides. I do one gentle crank, the other 2, and the other 2. And then you can, it's just like doing lugs on a wheel. You know, when you change a tire on your car, you do the same thing with that. Okay, and now I'm going to turn this up to high, and this will exhaust out of the steam pipe, and it has to exhaust 10 minutes. And I'll set my timer, and when 10 minutes comes back, I will put I think this is a shuttlecock. I can't remember what this is called. And I'm going to put it on at 10 pounds pressure, and that'll go right there. And when that gets going, I'll come back and show everybody how to do that. Okay, so my timer just went off. This has been exhausting for 10 minutes. I am going to put the weight on for 10 pounds pressure. And that's it. As soon as it starts rocking, we'll come back. It takes it about 10 minutes to start rocking. But I'll come back, and you can see my gauge will go to 11 pounds. This is a weight and a gauge, which is kind of double safety. If you have the weight, you don't need the gauge. I went and took a canning class in Pittsburgh by Penn State, And yeah, they said if you have one, you don't need the other. And it was by the Master Canners program. So I felt real comfortable knowing that information. Um, Once it gets to rocking and it hits 11 pounds pressure, it's going to stay at 11 pounds pressure for 1 hour and 15 minutes because these are pints. If they were quarts, they would be longer. So as soon as it starts rocking, all right, we have reached 11 pounds pressure, and you can hear how the weight sounds. That tells me I'm also at 11 pounds pressure. But the gauge tells me I'm right there. So I will start my timer for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Good morning. Before I run out the door, I want to do a quick post so everybody could see. This is delicious. I'm not a big meat eater, but we opened a jar, and I have to say I'm really happy with the way this came out. The other thing I'm really happy about, I know it took me a long time to debone and a long time to trim all the fat off, but there's very little fat on the tops of these jars. And the little bit of fat there is, I'll pop them in the refrigerator before we use this, and then the fat coagulates, and then I can skim it all off with a spoon and throw that away. So I have to say, I am really happy with this recipe. It's in the Ball book. I'll put the link below to that. And everything is dated. This is ready to go on the shelves in the basement. This is 10 jars. I did have one jar break. The lid blew off. And I'm not sure why that happened because it was finger tight. There was no reason for that to blow off like that. So I'm not really positive what happened there. But the rest of it is absolutely delicious. I would highly recommend this recipe. Is it a savings? We don't eat a lot of meat. I do like this better than the chicken or the turkey, but I will say I might do this again. It was expensive, in my opinion. A pork shoulder for a grass-fed happy pig, 2 of those ran me about $24. And I got 10 jars, which still, when you do the math and you add, if you're making tacos with it or you're just sprinkling on a salad, well, for us, the salad's kind of free. so, but the taco, if you make your own tortillas, which I'll be doing later, cost a few pennies. It's flour, lard, and speaking of which, the tariffs are here. I'll be rendering lard. Olive oil went up $4 a bottle. So that is, to me, I'm going back to my Hungarian roots of rendering lard. So when I was down at my butcher, I asked him if he had any leaf lard, because that's what you want for good cooking lard. And I bought 10 pounds. So I'm going to render out 10 pounds of lard. And maybe I'll do a video on that. I don't know yet. So that's what's going on. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.